Hello and welcome to I Want to Fight Araki, a JoJo's Bizarre Adventure close analysis podcast. I'm Thomas,
And I'm Emily.
and we have some pretty disturbing episodes to break through today. I was rewatching these episodes and
Cringe.
still freaks me out.
I can't even look at some parts because,
Yeah.
I'm the kind of person, I can't do anything with eyeballs. I can't do anything with fingernails. So that's just
these are bad episodes to watch if you got those phobias, but
I love these episodes. They're good.
These are great episodes. Gonna have to make you revisit it at least one more time, Emily, because we got to do the recap real quick. So, after recovering from his bout with the Pillar Men and realizing the situation he has put himself into, Joseph begins freaking out at the thought of getting strong enough to face Wamu within just a month. Caesar has a solution, however, and takes JoJo to visit his teacher in Venice, while Speedwagon heads back to the U.S. to inform Arena that he is still alive. While walking the streets of Venice, JoJo and Caesar are attacked by a masked gondolier who seems to be a master of Hamon. The gondolier reveals themselves to actually be the beautiful Lisa, Caesar's Hamon coach. Lisa, in her attack, is impressed by JoJo's talent but mocks him for his skill and attaches a breathing regulator to JoJo that will suffocate him should he not breathe rhythmically. Lisa reveals that she knows of the situation regarding the Pillar Men and that she will train JoJo. Lisa takes Caesar and JoJo to her private island, Air Suplina, which not only serves as her home, but also as a Hamon training facility. Realizing that she'll need to expedite the training process in order for JoJo to face the Pillar Men on time, she sends JoJo and Caesar to the base of the Hell Climb Pillar, a massive underground pillar covered in oil in which the only way to climb out is to use Hamon. Caesar begins his trek up the pillar, and while a day passes, JoJo is still stuck at the bottom, claiming he'll get revenge on Lisa. JoJo eventually tries to climb his way out by fashioning a rope out of his clothes, but the clothes are cut by Lisa. Eventually, JoJo figures out how Caesar is climbing the pillar by channeling Hamon through his fingertips rather than his palms. Caesar is happy to see JoJo climb the pillar, and after another day passes, the duo are about 15 meters up the pillar. Spotting a crack in which he can rest, JoJo sticks his hand in, but this unwittingly activates a trap, releasing a highly pressurized sheet of oil that will cut the duo in half if they can't find a way around it. Caesar makes his way through by conducting both attractive and disruptive Hamon at the same time, cutting through the oil while remaining attached to the pillar. After 60 hours, Caesar reaches the top, but is concerned about if JoJo can make it through or not. Surveying his surroundings, JoJo notices the flow of oil slows as it reaches the walls surrounding the pillar. Using this knowledge, JoJo uses his Hamon to attach himself to the sheet and use the momentum it generates to not only make it past the sheet, but launch himself 3 extra meters into the air. JoJo, mere inches from the goal, begins to falter from exhaustion, however, but is saved by Caesar. Caesar is concerned that he may have failed JoJo by helping him, but Lisa assures the two that they both passed and that the real training can begin. Lisa introduces JoJo and Caesar to 2 of her servants, Messina and Loggins, who, over the course of several weeks, train JoJo and Caesar until JoJo has 1 week left to live before the rings kill him. Lisa informs JoJo and Caesar of... Lisa informs JoJo and Caesar after their training that the Redstone of Aja the Pillar Men are seeking is in her possession, and that the Pillar Men are responsible for creating the stone masks as means of accelerating their evolution to become perfect beings. The latter fact particularly bothers Caesar, as the stone mask is partially responsible for William's death. JoJo suggests destroying the stone, but Lisa refuses and instead informs the duo that they need to face one last test before they pursue the Pillar Men, a duel with Messina and Loggins. As dawn approaches, Caesar begins his bout with Messina, while JoJo approaches the designated area to fight Loggins, only to discover AC/DC having killed Loggins by ripping out his lungs. JoJo confronts AC/DC and, in the scuffle, manages to rip AC/DC's arm off using a Harmon-charged silk thread fashioned from Loggins' clothing. JoJo manages to evaporate the skin surrounding the Pillar Man's severed limb, causing AC/DC to burn into tears. JoJo was concerned by this unpredictability as it would affect his ability to read AC/DC, but after AC/DC composes himself and gets a new arm by removing one of Loggins's, the battle resumes, with AC/DC displaying his ability to heat his blood to 500 degrees and fire it from exposed veins. JoJo is caught off guard but manages to dodge AC/DC's attacks. However, his breathing apparatus is destroyed. JoJo attempts to catch AC/DC in a trap using the thread from his hat, but AC/DC effortlessly destroys it. AC/DC is even able to predict JoJo's next line, mimicking Joseph. Just as he is about to finish JoJo with his blood, Joseph begins laughing. Joseph reveals that he had tied two separate threads together in such a way that, should it be cut, it will stay together. Seizing his opportunity, JoJo sends a massive amount of Hamon through the thread and wraps it around AC/DC, completely vaporizing his body. As the sun rises, JoJo heads back to confer with Lisa, with AC/DC's brain and blood veins attached to his back. Joseph heads back to Lisa's home and meets up with Lisa's servant, Susie Q. After flirting with her for a bit, Susie Q informs JoJo that Lisa wants a meeting with him. JoJo kills some time by looking out the window of Lisa's home and seeing Susie Q deliver a package to the mailman. Growing increasingly bored, JoJo decides to peep on Lisa taking a bath when he notices Susie Q somehow appearing in the room. He also notices that the doorknob is covered in slime. Figuring out that something is wrong, JoJo bursts into the room. Caesar quickly follows behind, and after some initial confusion, JoJo, Caesar, and Lisa figure out that Susie Q is possessed by AC/DC. AC/DC explains that he has lifted the red stone of Aja and sent it towards the rest of the Pillar Men in St. Moritz, Switzerland, and that the only way they'll be able to catch it will be killing Susie Q. JoJo gets the idea to save Susie Q by Caesar and JoJo hitting her with opposing forces of Hamon. They manage to save her, and AC/DC finally dies. JoJo does briefly mourn AC/DC, admiring the choices he made, even if he doesn't agree with them. With a destination in mind, JoJo, Caesar, Lisa, and Messina head to Switzerland, but not before JoJo says he'll come back to see Susie Q again. The group arrives in Switzerland only to find it under Nazi control. The Nazis manage to secure the Red Stone of Aja, but one of the Nazi majors indicates that he knows JoJo and that they should team up to deal with the Pillar Men problem. JoJo is unsure of who it could be, but the two groups convene in a remote cabin. The cabin, however, is suddenly attacked by Cars, who uses his arm blades to slice up every Nazi soldier except the major. Cars lays his blade into the major, but is stopped by a completely metal hand. And as JoJo enters the room, it is revealed that the Nazi major is a returning von Stroheim, complete with a new cybernetic body. End of episodes.
Cyborg Nazis.
Cyborg Nazis fighting sort of vampires.
There's so much going on here.
There's a lot of tongue twisters in that summary, yes. I just realized.
I would like to first bring a little light onto that very shameless reference, Air Supply Island.
Yeah.
Air Supply. I hate that.
Yeah, there's some pretty obvious references.
Yeah. It's like, I honestly don't feel like I have a whole lot of intelligent things to say this episode.
It's definitely like one of the more silly episodes, but
but it's so much, but like there's so little at the same time.
We definitely got a lot to break down, so
it's like we had a lot of subtleties to break down last episode, and now it's just even more subtle, yet also less subtle at the same time.
We had a few contributions to character development, and we got some new characters to talk about / criticize, shall we say? Yeah, why don't we start with Lisa,
who is a good place to start.
The new character that we have introduced in these episodes. Okay.
So Lisa's a queen, and she deserves better.
Lisa
but we're not going to go into that right now.
Yeah, there's some. I mean, this is definitely a weakness in my mind. Is that we see it a little bit in these episodes, not as bad as it's going to be later on, but Lisa is definitely one of the most wasted characters in JoJo.
It's just like, it's shown like within like the first like 30 seconds that she's introduced that she is like her Haman skills are far superior to Joseph and Caesar's combined.
Definitely.
So it's like you'd think that she would do something cool at some point.
Yeah, and it's just kind of disappointing. It makes me wonder what exactly is being said, because it's almost like it's like Joseph says a lot during the Hell Climb Pillar episode about like how Lisa sucks, and like she's like a cruel bitch and like all this stuff. And like you sort of
like, boy, you saying that to your mom, you don't even know that yet, but
exactly. But dude, there's some. I understand what they were trying to do, sort of, throw you off the scent, but like in retrospect, these couple episodes are kind of weird and uncomfortable. But yeah, so it says a lot about like how Lisa is like a cruel bitch and stuff like that, and like it sort of seems like they're setting up Joseph to like his arc is gonna be that he's like not gonna be as sexist, but then like in the episode where AC/DC takes control of Susie Q, Lisa is like literally like she's standing in a bath with a towel, and it's not even like the towel is like completely wrapped around her, like it's just kind of covering her front half. So you just get like ass shot after ass shot, and it just feels like really incongruous with like what is being sort of set up.
It's just it's like it's so hard not to bring up the sexism TM every time, because it's just like in part 2 it is like part 2 is probably the worst offender of it.
Yes.
Like part 1 was fine. Like, because Arena was cool.
Because there weren't any female characters.
Yes, there was like Arena, and then there was like Poco's sister, and the two of them were actually kind of cool. Like, they did cool things sometimes.
Yeah.
But then like you get like Lisa who is like, okay, this person, she's gonna do something cool because she seems very cool. She's just like a Haman master.
Yeah,
like she's literally a master of it.
This is sort of an example of like, I mean, even though I do think there are times where it's okay to tell instead of show, this is definitely a time where we need more show than tell, because I feel like we're told a lot that Lisa is like this badass Haman user.
We're shown it a little bit.
We're shown it a little bit once she's very first introduced, but beyond that, she's just kind of a wet blanket for JoJo and Caesar. And then, yeah,
and
I mean,
after like watching these 2 episodes, I'm like actually remembering that she's kind of an interesting character. If once again, if elaborated upon TM, like I was ranting about through the entirety of Phantom Blood, she could have been very cool, because she had this mysterious vibe about her that it's like, oh, she has secrets, and we learned that she did have secrets, but like at the same time it was kind of like disappointing secrets.
Yeah, I don't know if I necessarily agree that it's disappointing, but it's just like,
well, like not disappointing, but just like I felt like it was, it was building up to something even greater than that, and then like how they finished her off in the end, like how her arc finished was just like it didn't exist.
Yeah, all the pieces are there, but they're just not fully together.
That's what I meant to say. You just summarized the whole thing right there. You have the brain cell today. I really don't. It's because I've been taking this allergy medication because I like all the plants are blooming.
Yeah.
And when the trees nut, I sneeze. And it's been like literally the allergy stuff I take makes me like out of it. This is probably not good for literary analysis. Especially when things are getting especially subtle.
Yes. Well, try and make the best of it. I have faith, because I feel like 90% of the things that you say on this podcast and on Twitter are like really smart. So,
every once in a while, I'm allowed to be smart. It's like I'm just like a dumbass half the time, and then like it's just every once in a while I'll say something just like incredibly like, I'm galaxy brain now. I'm just not consistent with my smartness.
So I kind of want to talk about, I guess while we're talking about Lisa, also want to transition and like maybe talk in tandem with slash fully transition to talking about the Hell Climb Pillar episode. Because this is definitely like one of the most important episodes for both JoJo and Caesar's character arcs. This is really the first time where we see Caesar display a genuine friendly care for Joseph.
After gaining mad respect for him in the previous 2 episodes, where he was like, wow, this guy actually isn't an idiot, and he's actually capable of things.
Right.
And he's actually like it's first shown like he's like climbing up the pillar, having a good time, and Joseph is like trying his best.
Mm-hmm.
You know, when you try your best and you don't succeed, you call your mom a bitch.
I will say one of the funniest moments is when he says something like he's like, you know, Lisa, like, you won't let me die down here, right?
And then she just looks at him, and he's like, "Oh."
It's the same frame, but it's like they put a black and white filter over it or something like that.
She just like, literally looks at him, and he's like, "Oh no, I'm gonna die."
Yeah, that's a pretty funny moment. But
yeah, Caesar's actually just like, he loses composure for a second and slips down a little bit because he's like, "Oh no, JoJo's like gonna die down there in a giant pit of oil."
Mm-hmm.
Like, he's actually concerned with him now that he knows that he's just putting on, you know, he like a facade of being an idiot. He's very obnoxious, but he's not an idiot. It's like he's like that meme of Spencer from iCarly where it's like, I may be an idiot, but I'm not stupid. I feel like that summarizes him very well. He's an idiot, but he's not stupid.
I like that, yeah. And I think
he's an obnoxious knucklehead.
He is. But this is sort of also where we see a bit more of Joseph learning a little bit more discipline, I would say.
Oh, yes. Let's not forget when he like got out of the Hell Climb Pillar and he realized that he could, you know, hold the water in the glass without it spilling when it was turned over. He like literally got on his knees and was like, I will worship your teaching, Lisa, please teach me the ways. Like it's like when it's like a little kid in school. They don't think that they're ever going to use anything, but then they actually like find what they use to be important later on, and they're like, huh.
That is a good way of putting it. And I think this is sort of, you know, obviously we spent a lot of time in the battle tendency discussions talking about how Joseph is wily and a trickster and stuff like that. If you guys listen to the other episodes, you guys know all this already. But I think this is sort of a moment where we see like sort of the show saying like that's great. That's, you know, having that skill is helpful, but you also do need a balance because like
raw talent can't get you anywhere.
Exact. Or it doesn't get you as far as like raw talent and practice.
It's like, yes, I can kill Santana with this, but can I kill Cars with this? Probably not.
Well, it's not even that. Because he doesn't even fully kill Santana.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
Like
he doesn't even fully kill Cars.
Exactly, but like with AC/DC, and he even comments on this where, you know, the fight with Cars. I mean, his Hamon was doing nothing. Like the only reason he wins that fight because of Luck and von Stroheim sacrificing himself.
As usual.
Whereas AC/DC, he completely vaporizes the guy. I mean, like, AC/DC is gone.
He's straight up not there.
Except for his brain and blood veins.
Gross things.
Yeah, which we'll get more into later. But
yeah, I have words about AC/DC.
Yeah, so this
Do I have any more words about anyone else? I don't know. I'm trying to look at my notes because yet again, they are what you call unorganized.
But yeah, I think that's definitely this is a tipping point for Joseph's character. I would say we're getting toward, you know, I would say about we're halfway, maybe a little bit over halfway, done with battle tendency. So now things are starting to sort of change significantly for the characters, and it's definitely a key example of that.
The stakes are higher because, when you get a wedding ring of death put around your windpipe and your heart, that kind of puts things into perspective.
That puts a damper on your mood.
Yeah, it really does, I would say.
um,
I'm trying to,
you good?
what are notes? I'm trying to read what I wrote. Most of it is just like really stupid comments. Like, I literally just have the grossest power in all of anime in all caps right here.
It really is.
Because it's true, though.
Well, in that case, maybe...
maybe it's AC/DC time.
Yeah, maybe it is AC/DC time. We can sort of jump around, but yeah, AC/DC
is very fun.
Yeah.
He's a very fun... He's like, once again, the Pillar Men, like, each one of them on their own is, like, okay. But, like, the three of them combined make for a pretty decent trio of villains because they are all quite different from one another, like, incredibly. You got Santana, who's just like, what is this? What can I disassemble this gun right here and pay no attention to the Nazis surrounding me? He just doesn't care. And then you got, like, Wamu, who is like, yes, I am an honorable warrior. I am actually kind of a good person, even though I do some bad things.
I would say AC/DC.
And AC/DC is just chaos.
I would sort of describe AC/DC as results-oriented.
Yes.
He's definitely all about, like, completing the mission as quickly as possible. No delays, no sidetracking. Just let's get it done, and, like, I'll boil the blood of anyone in my way.
The thing I've noticed about the Pillar Men is that none of them are like excessively cruel.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not even sure who the worst. Like, some of them kind of are. Like, I would say Cars is kind of cruel for no reason. Wamu definitely isn't. AC/DC isn't. Like, AC/DC's kind of nutty sometimes, but even then, he's like not like. He's like, I'm not gonna torture somebody. And then you got like Santana, who literally just does not care.
Yeah, Santana doesn't care. I would say AC/DC is so, like, I guess he doesn't like go out of his way to torture people, but
sometimes a little torture as a treat.
He knows his powers are like inherently torturous. I don't know if torturous is a word. Yeah, it is.
It is now.
And he sort of gets off on that fact, but like not to the same degree that like
Dio
or like the Kira. Early von Stroheim appearance. Yeah, Kira. He's not sadistic.
All of the other villains are very kind of sadistic.
But yeah, I think I will say though that I think it's definitely relevant that AC/DC is the first. I guess he's not the first Pillar Man to die, but well, no, I guess he technically is the first Pillar Man to die because Santana's technically still alive, even if he is crumbly bumbly. But
it's interesting because I would have thought that AC/DC would be the hardest one for Joseph to beat.
Yeah, and I think there's something to that. So I mean, we haven't gotten into Cars quite yet. Those will be in the next episodes. But I think, compare the three Pillar Men that we have spent a significant amount of time with. We have Santana, who is largely indifferent to the world, but, is sort of a naturally curious kind of guy. We have Wamu, who is sort of more honorable. And then we have AC/DC, who true may not be as sadistic and like loving of torture as some other JoJo villains, but I think within the context of just battle tendency, he is the most sort of sadistic character, or at the very least on the same level as Cars is. And I think him getting taken down first is pretty significant because you got to remember, AC/DC is like Kars's partner. Like in terms of the Pillarmen hierarchy, they are on the same level compared to Wamu and Santana, who are on the lower level. Yet, I think because AC/DC is this sort of semi-sadistic character, him being taken out first is like a lot more of an indictment and sort of a reflection of the moral compromises that we've been exploring in this battle tendency discussion. You know, this is like I would say of all the Pillarmen, like they're all bad guys, obviously, but of all the Pillarmen, AC/DC is the most overtly evil, and because
this
of
is
that,
very fair.
he gets to die first.
That makes a lot of sense, actually, because he's oh my god, I'm trying to think.
You're almost
Once
there.
again, with Kar, I'm almost there. Okay, even like I feel like all the Pillarmen in general are just like the least evil of all of the JoJo villains.
Mm-hmm.
Like their goals are very. They're not humans like the rest of the JoJo villains. Like you got all like, you know, Dio, he's like, I became a vampire, but he's still a person.
Why is he Southern?
I don't know why I did that. I literally did not intend to do that. It just came out like that. What the hell? What is the allergy medication doing to my brain?
Now we know what the thumbnail's gonna be.
Oh Jesus. But yeah, even though he became a vampire, he was, you know, a whole person right there.
Mm-hmm.
Kira's just a dude. Part 3 Dio, he's a tough dude, but he is still a dude. Diavolo's still a person. Like, they're all, like, human people.
Mm-hmm.
And it's interesting, like, if you... To put it into, like, the Pillarman's perspective, they consider human beings to be, like, animals. So it's like, people kill animals. That's just how it be. Like, yes, people eat cows and chickens and whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
And that's it's almost like the Pillarmen sort of see people in that same way. And that's why it doesn't seem as sadistic, because they legitimately believe them to be lower, which can sound even worse. But, like, they're not... I was going to say that they're not cruel to people of their own race, but when you think about it...
Yeah, they're pretty cruel to the people of their own race.
Kars kind of was. Wamu wasn't really. Wamu's just a good dude. Santana, we don't know. He's just vibing.
Yeah, Santana is, like, neutral, I would say.
He's just so neutral. It's terrible. He's so neutral, it's painful.
I would sort of summarize, and, like, I don't know if this is exactly what you're going for, so feel free to correct me, but I'll sort of summarize where, like, Dio's goal is to take over the world.
Yes.
The Pillarmen's goal is to evolve, and that inherently, taking over the world is a side effect of evolving.
It's that's why it's like, that's just the reason why I see them as like not the lesser evils, but like the least evil of the JoJo villains, because of they have a much, being not humans, they have like the least human perspective. They don't have an understanding of that, whereas other characters such as, I feel like Diavolo is the best example, is a human person and just kills people. Like, he's a mafia boss. He knows very well, like, especially Kira, it's just like all of them, it's like, these are human people. They are doing bad things because they want to, and they are doing them to other people. And it's not like, the Pillarmen, like all the other Pillarmen are dead. So it's not like they have any people of their own race to be cruel to.
Yeah.
So they're just, it's like a person being cruel to an animal, which is once again a bad thing. But speaking of people being cruel to animals, we got to see that scene that's gonna go into my the Pillarmen are actually the Lorax theory. So when Kars saves a dog, like, literally, But I think I mentioned this in that episode also, something that Mark Twain believed. He believed that animals were incapable of being evil because they didn't have that higher conscience to choose to be evil or not. And it's because people have to like the ability to choose to be evil that makes, you know, humans the only like creatures capable of true evil. So you got cars over there, and it seems like he believes such things as well, because there's just a dog. You know, once again, they're the kind of race that looks upon like, you know, different species as lesser life forms, but they only seem to be prejudiced towards people because they look similar, they have a similar intelligence, but they're not nearly as strong.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like they're similar to the Pillar Men, where it's like he knows that people are capable of evil because they choose to be evil, but this dog cannot choose to do that. So he just sees these two dudes driving, and there's this dog there vibing. That rhymed. I hated that. I hate that. I hate
go into a limerick.
I hate accidentally rhyming things. I don't know why. But yeah, he literally just pulls out the old bone blade and makes them crash to save the dog. And it's just like, okay, that's probably like the most interesting thing that Cars ever does.
I think I may have stumbled upon a big brain moment, if you'll indulge me.
Ooh, please do. We need some intelligence here.
So, jumping off the Pillar Men as a force of nature theory, the Pillar Men Lorax theory, as we have dubbed it.
That's the official name for it.
So let's think about the context in which like the Pillar Men are fighting, specifically Cars, as we briefly see him in these episodes. Where, all right, so the first thing we see Cars do is he saves the dog by cutting up those guys like driving a car, and it's, you know, obviously a car that's like a piece of technology, and sort of it's a human advancement. And then
wait, I see your galaxy brain.
The next time we see Cars in these episodes is he's attacking the cabin where the Nazis are. And, you know, the Nazis, if you are a history buff, they are, like, part of the Nazi ideology was all about, like, scientific and technological progress at all costs. And we sort of see that even within the context of JoJo, where von Stroheim is experimenting with them at that, you know, for the time, high-tech facility. And I mean, von Stroheim himself is a piece of human technology, partially.
Cyborg Nazis.
So it's really this battle between technology and nature, and that you know, a lot of literature is based around this idea of humans trying to control nature and sort of failing. And JoJo is kind of the opposite of that. Not that it's like nature is powerful. Nature will fuck up technology a lot of times, but you know, obviously because there are more seasons of JoJo and the world is saved, the Pillar Men, and we can get into this as we approach the finale of Battle Tendency, but the Pillar Men lose to Joseph
and his bastardry.
And so sort of in the battle of ultimate nature versus ultimate technology wins, which I think that's a pretty interesting stance to take, especially in contrast to so much of other like literary stories and theories and things like that.
That's very interesting. That was the galaxy brain moment of this episode. I'm going to make a hella comparison here to something that was, I'm going to make two hella comparisons here. Oh my God, wait, I have two. Okay. So so back when you were saying like, yes, technology versus nature, what a concept, a story where technology wins. It's a very interesting way to go about it because it's rarely ever gone about, except I guess now if you overanalyze part 2 of JoJo.
If you
And
analyze,
also, in something I ranted about on Twitter a hot minute ago, one of my favorite books of all time, The Martian, and also Dr. Stone, which I've become absolutely obsessed with recently, both portray stories of not real, it's sort of like, the man versus nature thing, except, technology wins. It's actually less shown that in all three of these examples, it's less shown that technology is what wins, but it's more intelligence. It's wit, it's like the ability to gather and learn things.
mm-hmm.
Because you have like Joseph over here who's just incredibly witty, and he doesn't really, use a whole lot of technology to do all the defeating and whatnot. He has, help from some cyborg Nazis, but don't we
As
all?
you
I don't
do.
know. As you do. It's mostly just him. He doesn't really use anything to, like, it's not the technology that allows him to defeat cars. It's his own wit. And then you got stuff like in The Martian where, he had a lot of access to technology, but that's not what allowed him to survive. It was his ability to literally rip apart the place that he was living in to make it more suitable for growing potatoes.
Yeah.
It was the technology was there to help him out, but it was really what got him through it was his own intelligence. And same with Dr. Stone, which would highly recommend, Thomas, if you need a new weeb show to watch.
Yeah, I'm familiar with the basic premise of Dr. Stone.
Very good.
It's been recommended to me several times, but
also let's not forget to mention that Cars is in Dr. Stone. I swear, we went to the good old anime club in college. South Dakota was there. Oh boy, us two JoJo fans, and there was this one part where they had to everyone's turned to stone. They had to awaken this dude who was super buff with this long ass hair, and he just it was literally just like an awaken my masters moment when he just popped out of the stone and beat up a bunch of lions. And I was like, the two, me and South were just like, and everybody else in the room just looked at us like, JoJo. But yeah, it's once again, you got our protagonist Senku, the boy. He doesn't have any access to technology whatsoever because all of it after 3,000 years has been corroded away. There is nothing left of civilization whatsoever. And because he is such a galaxy brains science nerd who somehow remembers the entire contents of every science textbook out there, he is able to survive and also by, create a bunch of crazy contraptions that make life easier for this village that he finds. And it's so wild because that's probably the best example of it. It's like he has no technology at all. It's just his intelligence that allows him to win. So I guess I'm not even sure if you could call it, technology versus nature. I guess it kind of is in the grand scheme of things, but it's more like human intelligence versus nature.
Maybe it's that
we use our intelligence to create technology that helps us defeat, the things that nature throws at us.
Yeah, that's a good way of putting it. Absolutely. And I think especially that, it's exactly as you said. Technology is a facilitator for us to control nature, which is kind of a weird way of saying it, but it's true.
It is. And part 2 of JoJo does it in the weirdest way, because once again, you gotta make a whole podcast about it in order to catch it.
Gotta have two nerds spend 7 weeks talking about JoJo in order to get to that point.
Yep, but to that point we did get.
It's worth it in the end. Yeah, so I don't really know how to follow up that exactly because that was pretty good. So
I think we finished it with the power of our galaxy brain moments.
yes. I guess jumping back one or two episodes, you want to talk about Suzy Q at all?
Perhaps.
Yeah,
I actually quite enjoy Suzy Q. I feel like she's a very underrated JoHo, as people call them. She's
sexism
very
in JoJo. What?
It's just it rhymes, okay? It just rhymes. So it's like Suzy Q and Joseph. They were made for each other. They're both like idiots, and they're both just like bastards in their own right.
Mm-hmm.
Like Suzy Q is just like she's like just like a pure lovely dumbass. Like there's like a consistent thing that I noticed when watching part 3 where like whenever she is there she becomes like it's always her being like very indecisive about something.
Yeah.
Like she's like it's like you have that she's like, oh, what, she was like, Lisa, what blouse do you want to wear today? And then she was like, oh, how about you pick? And then she just like, I can't pick, I don't know. And then
right.
like, she had to do that same thing when she was just this old lady in part 3. And I actually, she's really fun in part 3 because she's just very oblivious to what's going on around her. She's literally just trying to have a good time, and I can respect that.
You know, thinking about it, and I don't want to jump too far into Stardust Crusaders, but so I guess I'll just start by saying, like, I think it's interesting that you say that because I sort of feel like, you know, with the way like that Lisa is portrayed in these episodes, combined with Suzy Q's sort of dumbassery, like it just kind of contributes to the feeling of,
oh yeah, it's not good. I was just joking around.
Yeah, well, I mean, but I guess what I will say is that I actually feel like Suzy Q is a much stronger character in Stardust Crusaders, even though we don't really see her all that often.
Because she's actually like, for a hot sec, she's like not a dumbass. She's actually a very nice person.
Yeah, and she's a nice person, and she actually like knows what's going on. Like
she didn't even have to, like, no one told her. She just figured it out.
Exactly.
That's why it's like these two were made for each other, because they both do that. I feel like they both like portray this facade of being a dumbass, but they actually have like very good skills, not necessarily with like intelligence when it comes to like doing math and stuff, but more like emotional intelligence. Like the two of them have very, very high emotional intelligence, with our boy Joseph being able to predict what everyone's going to say, and then Suzy, like, they didn't even have to tell her what was going on to know exactly what was going on.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, again, probably get more into this in Stardust Crusaders, and I'm already starting to formulate a greater thematic theory about Stardust Crusaders, but
write that down. Don't lose that. We need content.
No, I mean, I've been thinking about it for a couple weeks. I will write it down, but I don't think I'm gonna forget. But anyway, I think age, and I definitely think like family are major themes of Stardust Crusaders.
Most definitely.
But getting back to battle tendency, I think Suzy Q just within battle tendency is sort of a this is the most I want to fight Araki episode of I want to fight Araki, I will say.
Honestly, yeah. I feel like there will be I feel like our conclusion to battle tendency, though, will be even more I want to fight. Especially
Perhaps.
when we get to the Lisa incident.
Yes.
I will be heated.
Yeah, but for now, this is the most I want to fight Araki of I want to fight Araki. But yeah, so I'm just scrolling through my notes, seeing if there's anything else.
Now you're becoming me.
We want to talk about. I guess we could talk about Caesar a little bit more. This is mostly just we're kind of jumping around here, but I feel like Caesar in these episodes is mostly just kind of contributing to his character arc of softening, but kind of also we see shades of what Caesar's downfall is ultimately going to be, which is that he can't let things go. And even that is sort of a flaw of Lisa's character, but just to focus on Caesar, because that's how I transitioned into this conversation. I feel like we see shade. So like when Lisa brings up that she has the Red Stone of Aja, which is like the MacGuffin of this story, Joseph immediately is like, destroy the stone, problem solved, right? And he's kind of right in that, you know, we know that there are other stones of Aja, but like the show calls it the Super Aja Stone. But like that's the only one of its kind. Like, but yet they kind of keep it around. Whereas Caesar's first reaction to hearing this news is like not so much that Lisa has the Super Aja and that if they destroy the Super Aja, the problem will be solved. They just have to fight the Pillar Men at that point. It's more that he learns that the Pillar Men are responsible for creating the stone masks because they want to accelerate their evolution, and like that is like his focus. Caesar's flaw is that he's ultimately focused on revenge. Like whoever is responsible, whatever is responsible for his family suffering and dying is what he wants to destroy. Whereas Joseph is like being much more pragmatic, much more like, even though we talk about Joseph's emotional intelligence, this is a scene where like he's being very logical and he has a good point about what they should do with the Redstone of Aja. And you know, it's just sort of a contribution to Caesar's character arc, as dark as his arc turns out. So some more accidental rhyming for you there, Emily.
Festive. Caesar's like, I'm here for revenge, and Joseph's just like, bruh, I'm just here to have a good time. There is one thing though, Lisa does mention that there was some legend that said that, you know, once again, that the Super Aja is sort of like, it can be both the Pillar Men's, you know, they could use it to do good things for themselves, but it can also be used against them. She mentioned there was like a legend that said they can only be defeated if the Redstone was somehow involved.
Mm-hmm.
And that was like, you know, there. But like at the same time, if they did destroy it, you know, they might have had a more difficult time defeating them, but the Pillar Men could not evolve. So
I would say
probably would have helped him out. It would have made it like easier and harder at the same time.
I would say that's true, Emily, except for the fact that Joseph kills AC/DC with no problem, basically.
Oh, yeah, that's fair.
So I think, but I'm happy that you brought that up, actually, because it's sort of almost like it almost makes me wonder if this is like sort of I mean, all right, this is the big reach moment of the episode.
Let's reach.
It almost makes me wonder if it's sort of almost like a meta commentary about JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, where
meta commentary. Once you bring out that word, it's just like, oh boy.
All right, buckle in, folks. So like Lisa says, we need the Redstone of Aja to kill the Pillar Men. Except that's wrong. They don't need the Stone of Aja. And in fact, because Joseph kills AC/DC, he helps stop Santana. Like even before they know what the Redstone of Aja like even does. And you think about like the first season, Phantom Blood, we talked about how there's the line about how Jonathan and Dio's battle is going to have like consequences throughout the ages. Arena is all about how the Joestars will have a legacy because of her Um, all these, yeah, we talked about how Phantom Blood is the sort of ultimate good versus evil confrontation. And there's like an epic reverence for that kind of story, for the legend of the Joestars, if you will. But as we learn, intentionally or otherwise, that is wrong. That having this focus on legacy, having a reverence for the past and having reverence for the legend is sort of a bad thing, because I mean, we're kind of spoiling here, but the Red Stone of Aja like doesn't help them for shit in the fight against the Pillar Men. It only really causes more problems. And so in order to like move forward, in order to like face the challenges ahead, you have to like create your own legend, if you will, as opposed to looking to the past and looking to other forces to grow and like push past your problems.
That just brings up an even more interesting point that may or may not be able to tie into your mega theory in some very odd way. We have, so the first three JoJo's, as you said, they're kind of fuck ups, like for reasons. Like you were like, oh yes, it's the lovely theory that you came up with. That's part. I feel like now that you say that, I feel like that's part of it. Like the big old toxic masculinity theory. It's like that's something that all three of those definitely have in common. But I just realized that another thing that all three of those have in common is they do exactly what you just said. But however, we have Josuke and Giorno who have no idea about anything that happened in the past, because Josuke and Giorno, they never knew their dads for like most of their life. And then Giorno never knew his dad for his whole life. He never learned anything about him. And for most of Josuke's life, he did not know anything about his dad either. And those two, like in the end, seemed the most successful because they didn't know what happened. Like they, once again, they created their own legends. It's like Jotaro was just pulled into something, against his own will because of this legend. And even Joseph was wrapped into something just sort of against his own will because of this legend. And then even Jonathan, because of what the Pillar Men did, and because Dio was like, the Pillar Men made the masks, someone found the masks, Dio got the mask. Dio screwed everything up.
Dio was a dick about everything.
Yeah. And then you got, these two significantly less manly. Maybe not manly, but just like
they're not traditional.
Not like hyper masculine,
Exactly, yeah.
They're just like, they're dudes and they're just vibing and they don't care. And then you got Josuke. Josuke is literally just vibing. Giorno has like this big dream, but like Josuke's like just trying to live his damn life. And then there's like a serial killer, and then he's like, I'm gonna be a good person and help people out. And it's funny because it's like a lot of the plot points in part 5 come about because of the stuff that happened before, but at the same time, like nobody is aware of it really. Even like Diavolo, who got the stand arrows, aren't really aware where they came from or what the other ones were used for. He didn't know who Dio was. He just has these arrows now. So it's almost like I'm not even sure if you could correlate those two things, because it's more like both those two, like Enya and Diavolo, were sort of just in the same place at the same time. And
right.
it wasn't Enyaba, and they call her Enyaba in the thing. Like it's Enya,
right.
but I keep getting screwed up because like the dub, the sub, they both call her that. Okay.
Yeah, it should be noted that the Japanese version calls Hamon Ripple, but we're calling it Hamon because that sounds cooler.
Yes, it just does. You can't. I'm not even sure if you could, once again, correlate those two. Those two were simply in the same place at the same time. So what Enya and Dio did has nothing to do with what Diavolo ended up doing. They've just both ended up finding the stand arrows. So it's just, I don't want to talk about fart. I said fart.
Nice.
No,
Nice.
But we got when we talk about the silly stuff.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
All right, so that's my
that's
tangent.
the meme of these episodes. Is
did I finish the tangent? I can't tell.
It sounds like you
Did
sort
I
of
make a point?
You were talking about Diavolo and Dio and how the whole thing is incidental.
Yeah. So, and even then, like, Kira being a serial killer didn't really have anything to do with much. I mean, I guess it's sort of, actually, no, that was kind of a result of Dio because of, like,
of the stand arrow.
Yasu's dad. Well, they got that stand. See, the thing is, they got that stand arrow from Dio because that's where, I think, if I remember correctly, Okuyasu's dad got a stand arrow from Dio.
Right.
So that sort of has something to do with it. But at the same time, everyone is unaware of it. So that's what really matters here. So those two actually end up achieving what they want to and end up, I guess you could say, possibly maybe being happy in the end. I don't know about Giorno, though, because all his friends are dead. But
I guess I would maybe try and summarize by saying that part 1, 2, and 3, the protagonists are about the past and living up to the legacy and family and stuff like that. Whereas part 4 and 5,
they do their
Josuke and Giorno do the things they do, not for the sake of family because they don't really care about their, greater lineage, but they do the things they do because of their own beliefs.
I vibe with that. I want to talk about the silly stuff.
Yes, let's talk about silly stuff.
Nice.
Because that was a lot. Yeah, so that's the meme for this episode is also, JoJo going in and going nice in English.
It was so, I swear to God, both of the voice actors that play Joseph, they're just both having a good time.
Yeah, we finally looked up that guy's name, Benjamin Diskin, who plays the dub voice actor for Joseph.
And then I just got to go off on a tiny tangent here. AC/DC is great. I've never related to a JoJo character more in my life. I've said this before. But yo, I gotta say, when Homeboy just like got frustrated because he couldn't fight him and started sobbing out of nowhere, and then was like went completely stone faced and was like, okay, I'm fine now. I feel better now that I got everything out, and then just like went right back to trying to kick his ass. I was like, yo, AC/DC speaking to me over here. Like, I get that, bro. Like, I feel that.
Gotta have a little. It's good to have a little cry sometimes.
Sometimes you just like all the frustration builds up. You just gotta sob, and then like immediately afterwards, you're like, I'm fine now. Like nothing's wrong anymore. I feel that. I feel that in my soul.
For sure. As far as silly stuff goes, I think the fact that the reason he like defeats AC/DC is because of like a beanie that he wears on his head. It just kind of makes me laugh a little bit. And like,
it was his wool hat that defeated the Pillar Man.
The image of the beanie just like slowly shrinking and like that's all intentional. Just like I don't know, it gets a chuckle out of me.
You defeated. I didn't even like phrase that in my head. Like, yes, AC/DC was defeated by a beanie, a woolen hat. Worn by a very bastard man.
It's kind of slightly funny, depending on, we've addressed the sexism a bunch on this podcast, but another thing that gets a chuckle out of me is when, Joseph bursts into the room, Lisa is there, the possessed Susie Q is there, and then Caesar just comes in right from behind, and he's like, Joseph, what are you doing with Lisa?
Oh boy.
And it's like, dude, do you not see what's going on right now?
Dude.
She's got black veins or whatever going on all over her body.
Wait, I remember I wrote something funny down that happened, and I'm trying to find it because I can't remember exactly what happened, but it was really funny. All right, hold up. I need to find it.
I'm trying to think of other stuff that happens. Oh, all right, this isn't supposed to
Oh
be
wait,
funny.
I
In
found
this,
something serious that I forgot to talk about.
all right, yeah, go ahead.
But no, you say your thing first because you were about to say it.
All right. I was just gonna say real quick. I don't think it's intentionally supposed to be funny, but it is legitimately the thing that cracks me up the most in these 3 episodes. Is so like Joseph, the whole gang is getting ready to go to Switzerland. They drive off. They come back. Joseph says he's gonna see Susie Q again. They like tease each other, and then like Susie Q like tosses like a small rock at them, but the way she throws it is just like so half-hearted. Like it's like she just like lets her arm flop over is what it kind of seems like. And I don't know why, but like that's what gets me the most in these episodes.
Oh, I'm trying to find that funny thing, but I also have that serious thing. Oh, rip. Where is it?
Why don't you do the serious thing first?
Okay, but
And
it
we
was
can
like
keep
the
talking
funny thing
silly
was like
after.
I want to try to say the silly thing was when like Joseph was like standing in the doorway and Lisa was just there and she was naked and then like and then Caesar comes up behind him and then Joseph says something and then Caesar makes this face and like just behind him like very much like it's not supposed he was behind him. There was no like attention put on it, but like in the like it's something you wouldn't even like notice on it. He just makes this face and he like I think he like gasps or something, but his face looks so stupid. And like I paused it and like stared at it for a second and I was just like laughing. Okay, I'm gonna get serious again. This is something that was so important that I forgot to mention. So you got when ACDC finally gets killed, my boy Joseph yet again gets all serious. Why? Because he respects the man for simply living a full life in the way that he wanted to. And that's good respect right there. And I didn't write down enough to remember what I wanted to say. But like, that's just like, that's like my core philosophy on life as well. It's like, as long as you live life the way you wanted to, then you have won. And Joseph gets that. He's just like, it's sort of, it makes sense why he would have that perspective based on the kind of person he is. He's not like, you know, once again, he is concerned with legacy, but not like, he's a shitlord, you know? He's literally just vibing. He's not nearly as concerned with legacy as Caesar is. He's just here to have a good time, to fight some people. He's just living his life completely shameless, without fear of being judged by anyone. So it makes sense why he would have that perspective on life, where it's like, as long as you live the way you want to, you're all good. That's the Frank Sinatra way, baby.
Exactly. Yeah. You are absolutely right. That's a pretty significant moment for sure, especially
We
because
mentioned it all the way at the end because I forgot about it.
we mentioned how just exactly how sadistic ACDC is in comparison with the other villains we've seen so far. But like even then, Joseph still has some respect for him.
Yeah, ACDC, he was just living his life. He had, you know, the respect came from him having a goal and wanting to achieve it, and it was his goal and not really, I guess you could say it was Cars' goal, but I guess it was both of their goals. They shared one.
Right.
You can only, Mom said it was my turn on the goal.
Mom said it was my turn on the redstone of Aja.
That's just like a summary of part 5.
Kind of, actually, especially the back half. But
Mom says it's my turn on the resolve. That's just no. That's a summary of part 5. Like the whole Gucci gang.
That's true. Oh, one
says
thing.
It's my turn on the resolve.
As long as we're talking about silly stuff relating to this podcast was that I was very tempted to copy and paste the whole Venice Venezia rant from part 5 when I brought up Venice in the summary.
Wait, you should have done that. What is wrong with you? You missed out on the most brilliant opportunity.
Well, I was like, well, we're gonna see Venice again come part 5 when we get to
Okay,
that
so
in 12
you know,
months.
you know how like there's just like bits, like very silly bits that you just feel the need to have completely memorized in your brain.
Mm-hmm.
Like I have the majestic eagle bit from the Attack on Titan abridged memorized.
Oh
I
yeah,
have the
yeah,
soup
yeah.
store memorized. I am trying to memorize the Delta Airlines bit. I'm gonna try to eventually memorize that lovely, lovely Venezia rant because I feel like it has reached that caliber of being a good bit.
Yeah, it's pretty funny. It's definitely a standout moment
It's very
in
good,
part
and
5 for
I
sure.
appreciated it wholeheartedly when it happened. I was like, yes, King, go off.
Tell them. Um, all right. Any other silly things or serious things we want to discuss?
I want to cosplay as Susie Q being possessed by ACDC. That is all.
If that happens, we'll be sure to post pictures.
That would be very scary. But first, that doesn't that mom. But my main JoJo cosplay priority is Part 3 Dio. But I definitely, some point in Boston land, Susie Q possessed by ACDC. I feel like that's a very interesting aesthetic. It
I feel
vibes
like
with
that
my
would be good.
it vibes with my generally chaotic vibes. All I know how to say is vibes. That's the only word I know.
You are great at makeup, so I could definitely see you pulling it off.
I could pull it off. We all know this.
But
And I could go as Dio pretty well. I'm blonde and I happen to own green lipstick. So
that's
I'm
all you
all
really
set.
need.
That's all you really need. You don't need anything else.
All right, so this episode was kind of all over the place, but I feel like we got some good stuff. So, with all that said, if you want to continue listening to our sometimes silly, sometimes serious goings on, you can follow me on Twitter at Thomas M. Brickman. I also do another semi-silly, mostly silly, semi-serious podcast all about video games with my buddy Kevin. You can listen to that on YouTube at post game content. You can also keep up with all the news and goings on related to that podcast with at post game con. That's at post game con on Twitter.
Oh, me. Okay. Whenever you do this, like it really does, because I'm just like, I don't expect the silence, and then it just happens, and I'm like, what? Was I supposed to do something? Then like a second later, I'm like, yes, I was supposed to do something. Okay, if you want to listen to all of my very random comments along with various existential crises, I'm on Twitter at Emily Winkles. I often like to go on like several tweet long reviews on different weeb shows I've been watching recently. There will be very soon a very, very long Twitter review on the last season of She-Ra, if y'all are interested in that.
There you go. And if you want to keep up with all the stuff that's going on with this podcast, see Emily's hilarious memes that she finds and makes. Also liking random Crunchyroll tweets. You can follow the Twitter account for the show. It's at I Want to Fight AR1 on Twitter, and I Want to Fight Araki on Instagram. And with all that said, we'll see you guys next time for when we cover. I forgot to say what episodes we were covering at the start of this podcast, but it's okay. If you listen to the last one, you already know what episodes we're covering. But next time, we're going to be covering Season 1, episodes 19, 20, and 21.
Ooh,
Battle
3.
Tendency episodes. Hold on. 10, 11, and 12. I still got it right. Hooray. So be on the lookout for that episode next week. Again, that's Season 1, episodes 19, 20, 21. Battle Tendency episodes 10, 11, and 12. We'll see you guys next time.